Captain Lee Tae-ho was having his morning coffee when the alarm started ringing. He looked at his screen and saw something that made him smile. 50 alien ships had just appeared near Earth's moon. They were big ships, painted in bright colors, with lots of sharp edges and scary decorations. "Well, this is new," Lee said to his crew on the bridge of Soul's Pride. His ship was floating near Jupiter, collecting gas for fuel. It was a normal Tuesday morning until the aliens showed up. The alien ship sent a message to Earth. It played on every screen and radio on the planet. A tall, purple creature with too many eyes appeared on the screen. It wore a fancy uniform, covered in medals and ribbons. "People of Earth," the alien said in a deep voice, "I am High Executor Vex Thari of the Galactic Dominion. We have found your small world and decided to welcome you into our great empire. You should feel honored. We rule 40,000 different species across the galaxy." Lee nearly spit out his coffee. He looked at his crew and started laughing. The other humans on the bridge looked confused at first. Then they started laughing too. "Captain," said Dr. Park Ji-woo, the ship's science officer, "are those ships supposed to be scary?" Lee wiped tears from his eyes. "I think so. Look at all those spikes and red paint. Someone worked really hard on that." The alien kept talking on the screen. "Your primitive world will now join our empire. We will teach you about real technology and proper civilization. In return, you will serve us and give us your planet's resources." Ambassador Kim Na-ri was on Earth, watching the broadcast from her office in Seoul. She was Earth's top diplomat, trained to handle difficult situations. But this was making her giggle like a school child. She called her assistant. "Get me a line to that alien ship, the big ugly one with all the decorations." "Yes, ma'am." "Should I prepare the standard first contact protocols?" "Sure, but keep it friendly." These guys seem enthusiastic. Back in space, High Executor Vex Thari was feeling proud of himself. This was his 100th first contact mission. It always went the same way. The primitive species would be scared, then amazed, then they would beg to join the Empire. Some would try to fight first, but they always gave up when they saw the Dominion's power. His assistant, Subcommander Kilmora, was watching the human planet. "Sir, we're getting a response from the surface." "Excellent. Put it on screen. I want to see their leader surrender properly." The screen showed Ambassador Kim Na-ri sitting at her desk. She was smiling and looked completely calm. This was not the usual response. "Hello there," Kim said with a cheerful wave. "I'm Ambassador Kim Na-ri from Earth. Thank you so much for visiting our little corner of space. Your ships are very decorative." Vex Thari blinked his 6 eyes. "Decorative? These are warships of the mighty Dominion fleet. You should be trembling with fear." "Oh, I'm sorry," Kim said, still smiling. "They're just smaller than what we usually see around here." "Are they antiques? They have a nice retro style." Sub-Commander Kilmora checked his readings. "Sir, the human ships, they're much larger than ours." "That's impossible," Vex Thari said. But he looked at his own screens and felt his stomach drop. The human ships were huge, not just bigger than Dominion ships, but 10 times bigger. And there were thousands of them. Captain Lee had moved, his ship closer to Earth to get a better look at the visitors. His crew was still chuckling about the alien broadcast. "Captain," said Engineer Yoon So-jin from the engine room, "I'm looking at their ship's power output. They're running on fusion reactors." "Fusion?" Lee laughed harder. "My grandmother's garden. She has better power than that." Dr. Park was scanning the alien ships with his instruments. "Sir, I'm getting some interesting readings. Their technology is, well, it's very old. Like we used this stuff 300 years ago." "Should I hail them?" asked Communications Officer Jang Hyun-sik. "Sure, let's say hello," Lee said. "But be nice, they probably worked really hard to get here." The communication went through to the alien flagship. Vex Thari saw Captain Lee appear on his screen. Lee was still grinning. "Hi there," Lee said with a friendly wave. "I'm Captain Lee Tae-ho of the Soul's Pride. Welcome to our solar system. Sorry about the mess, we're doing some construction work." "On the outer planets?" Vex Thari looked confused. "Construction work? Yeah, we're building some new moons around Saturn. The kids wanted more places to play. Your timing is perfect, though. We were just about to take a break. Moons, Kilmora whispered. They're building moons? Lee continued talking. Would you like a tour? We've got some nice viewing platforms around Jupiter. Or if you're hungry, there's a great restaurant on Europa. They make the best space noodles in the system. Vexthari felt like his brain was breaking. This was not how first contact was supposed to go. The humans should be scared. They should be begging for mercy. Instead, they were offering him lunch. You don't understand, Vexthari said, trying to sound scary again. We are the Galactic Dominion. We have conquered thousands of worlds. We have weapons that can destroy planets. Oh, wow, that sounds terrible, Lee said, looking concerned. Why would you want to destroy planets? That seems like a waste. There's so much cool stuff you can do with planets. Dr. Park appeared next to Lee on the screen. Excuse me, sir, he said to Vexithari. I'm Dr. Park. I study alien cultures. Could I ask you some questions? This is so exciting, our first contact with a space empire. I'm streaming this live to our history networks. Streaming? Kilmora asked. Oh yes, Park said. About 6 billion people are watching right now. Everyone's very interested in meeting real aliens. The entertainment value alone is incredible. Ambassador Kim Nari had joined the conversation from Earth. I hope you don't mind the attention. We've never met a galactic empire before. Most of the species we know are pretty advanced, so this is a nice change. Most of the species you know? Vexthari was getting a headache. Well, yes, Kim said. We trade with about 200 different worlds. Nothing major, just basic stuff like art and music. Though the Zentorians did ask us to help them fix their sun last year. You fixed a sun? Just a small repair job, Kim said, waving her hand. It was going to go nova and wipe out their civilization. Took our engineers about a week to stabilize it. Vexthari sat down heavily in his command chair. This was not going according to plan. The humans were supposed to be primitive. They were supposed to be impressed by the Dominion's technology. Instead, they were talking about fixing stars like it was changing a light bulb. Sir, Kilmora whispered, I'm reading more human ships coming in from other systems, hundreds of them. They're all bigger than our dreadnoughts. Captain Lee was still talking cheerfully. So what brings you to our neighborhood? Are you exploring? Trading? We love meeting new people. Though I have to ask, how did you get here with those old engines? That must have taken forever. Our engines are the finest in the galaxy, Vexithari said weakly. Oh, I'm sure they are, Lee said kindly. For their time. We used similar designs, back when we first left Earth. Very reliable, just a bit slow. Would you like us to show you some of our newer models? We've got some ships that can cross the galaxy in a few days. Vexithari looked at his screens again. The human ships were beautiful and sleek, without any of the spikes or scary decorations that Dominion ships used. They looked fast and powerful, and impossibly advanced. This is impossible, he muttered. What's impossible? Kim asked from Earth. You're supposed to be primitive, Vexithari said. You've only just developed space travel. You should be in awe of our mighty empire. There was a pause. Then Lee, Kim, and Dr. Park all started laughing again. Oh, you thought we were new to space, Kim said, wiping her eyes. That's adorable. We've been traveling between stars for about 400 years now. How long has your empire been around? 20,000 years, Kilmora answered automatically. Wow, Dr. Park said. And you're still using fusion engines? That's actually pretty impressive. The maintenance alone must be a nightmare. Vexithari felt the last of his dignity crumbling. His mighty empire, the terror of the galaxy, was being patted on the head like a child with a cute toy. I need to call my superiors, he said quietly. 3 days later, High Executor Vexithari was still trying to understand what had happened. His superiors had ordered him to stay near Earth and learn more about these strange humans. They wanted to know how dangerous humanity really was. Grand. Admiral Kethvaran had arrived with the main Dominion fleet. His ship was the biggest and most impressive vessel in the Dominion Navy. It had taken him 2 weeks to travel from the Empire's capital to this small corner of space. Show me these humans, Kethvaran commanded as soon as he arrived. Vexathari pointed to the screens showing the human ships. There, sir. Those are their vessels. Kethavoran looked and felt his confidence shake. The human ships were enormous. They looked like flying cities, smooth and white and beautiful. His own flagship, the pride of the Dominion fleet, looked like a tiny toy next to them. How many ships do they have? He asked quietly. We've counted over 50,000 so far, sir, but more keep arriving from other systems. 50,000? Kethavoran sat down. The entire Dominion fleet had 12,000 ships. What do they want? That's the strange part, sir. They keep offering to help us. They want to give us tours and show us their technology. Ambassador Kim invited us to visit their space stations. Cultural analyst Nimthara was studying the human broadcasts. She was the Dominion's expert on primitive species. Her job was to understand how to control new civilizations that joined the Empire. Sir, she said to Kethavoran, I've been watching their entertainment networks. The humans are treating our arrival like a festival. They're making jokes about our ships and taking bets on how long it will take us to understand their technology. They're mocking us. Not exactly mocking, sir. More like, they think we're cute. One of their comedians called us space puppies, trying to be fierce. Kethvaran's face turned purple with anger. Puppies. We are the mighty Dominion. We will show them our power. Commander Cho Minho was watching the alien fleet from his command post on Luna Base. He was in charge of Earth's Space Defense Force, though there hadn't been much to defend against for the past 2 centuries. Most species in the galaxy were friendly, and the few aggressive ones usually changed their minds after meeting human peacekeeping ships. Sir, said his aide, the aliens are requesting permission to demonstrate their military capabilities. Cho looked at his screens. The alien ships were moving into what looked like an attack formation. Are they trying to scare us? I think so, sir. Should we respond? Sure, let's watch. Might be educational. The Dominion fleet began their demonstration. They fired their biggest weapons at an empty asteroid, turning it into dust. They showed off their fastest ships, racing around the solar system at incredible speeds. They deployed their shields and activated their most advanced sensors. It was an impressive display. For a civilization from 20,000 years ago, engineer Yoon So-jin was watching from the Soul's Pride. She was taking notes on her tablet, studying the alien technology. Captain Lee, she called, you should see this. Their weapons are fascinating. Good fascinating or bad fascinating? Lee asked. Historical fascinating. They're using plasma cannons that we studied in engineering school. The design is exactly like the ones in our museums. Dr. Park was recording everything for his research. Their fastest ship just reached 0.7 light speed. That's adorable. My personal shuttle goes faster than that. Should we tell them? Lee asked. Probably not yet. They seem really proud of it. Grand Admiral Kethvaran finished the demonstration and opened a communication channel to the human ships. There, he announced. You have seen the power of the Dominion. Now you understand why you should join our empire. There was a long pause. Then Captain Lee appeared on screen, looking thoughtful. That was very nice, Lee said carefully. You've clearly put a lot of work into those systems. Very traditional. Traditional? Well, yes, we used similar technology when we were first learning to build warships. It's good to see the classic design still working. Engineer Yoon appeared next to Lee. Excuse me, she said to Kethvaran. I'm Engineer Yoon So-jin. I design starships for the human colonial fleet. Would you mind if I ask some technical questions? I suppose that would be acceptable. Great. First, how do you keep those plasma cannons from overheating? We had that problem with our early models. Kethvaran looked confused. Overheating? They don't overheat. Really? But you're pushing plasma through magnetic coils at that energy level. The thermal buildup should be incredible. Oh wait, Yoon paused, checking her readings. You're only operating at 12% power capacity. That's why they don't overheat. 12%? Sub-Commander Kilmora checked his own screens. But sir, we're at maximum power. Yoon nodded sympathetically. Right. That's the design limit for that configuration. We hit the same wall about 300 years ago. Would you like me to show you how we solved it? Solved it how? Well, first we redesigned the magnetic containment system, then we switched to quantum plasma feeds instead of thermal ones. It's not that complicated once you understand the underlying physics. Cultural analyst Nimthara was frantically taking notes. This human engineer was casually explaining technology that was centuries beyond anything the Dominion had. Scientist Jang Hyun-sik joined the conversation from his laboratory ship. "Hi there," he said cheerfully. "I'm Dr. Jang. I study industrial processes. I've been analyzing your ship's construction, and I have to say the craftsmanship is amazing." "Thank you," Kethvorin said, feeling slightly better. "The attention to detail is incredible. All those decorative spikes and armor plates welded on by hand. It must have taken decades to build each ship." "It did take decades. We are proud of our construction methods." "I can see why. It's like watching ancient blacksmiths at work. Very authentic. Our ships are all grown in automated shipyards now. Takes about 6 hours from start to finish, but they don't have that handmade charm." "6 hours?" Nimthara whispered. "They can build a starship in 6 hours?" "For a basic model, yes," Jang said. "Though the big colony ships take a whole day. But your method is much more artistic." Ambassador Kim Nari had been quietly listening to the technical discussion. Now she spoke up from her office on Earth. "Admiral Kethvorin," she said politely, "we really appreciate you coming all this way to visit us. Your journey must have been exhausting." "It was a long voyage," Kethvorin admitted. "I can imagine. 2 weeks in those small ships must have been cramped. How many people do you have in your crew?" "My flagship carries 3,000 of our finest warriors." Kim looked surprised. 3,000 in that little ship? Where do they all sleep?" "We have efficient space usage," Kethvorin said proudly. "I'm sure you do. It's just that our passenger shuttles carry more people than that, and they have private rooms for everyone. Your crew must be very dedicated to put up with such tight quarters." Captain Lee was trying not to laugh. "Admiral, would you like to visit one of our ships? We could show you around, maybe compare some design philosophies." Kethvorin looked at the massive human vessels floating nearby. His ship would fit inside their cargo bay. That might be educational." "Great. Fair warning, though, you might want to bring some of your technical people. Our ships can be a bit overwhelming if you're not used to this level of technology." Engineer Yoon was getting excited. "Oh, you should definitely see our engine room. We've got a miniature star contained in a magnetic bottle. It's perfectly safe, just don't look directly at it without protective gear." "A contained star?" Kilmora fainted. "Don't worry," Yoon said quickly. "It's just a small one. We use them for power generation. Much cleaner than fusion reactors, and you never have to refuel." Cultural analyst Nimthara was hyperventilating. "They have pet stars," she whispered. "They keep stars as pets." Dr. Park appeared on screen with a tablet in his hands. "This is such an amazing opportunity for research. I've been studying your social structure, and it's fascinating how you've managed to maintain a centralized empire across such vast distances with your communication technology." "What's wrong with our communications?" Kethvorin asked defensively. "Oh, nothing's wrong. It's just that your signals can only travel at light speed, so messages must take years to reach different parts of your empire. How do you coordinate anything?" It is challenging." "I bet it is. We solved that problem by using quantum entanglement communicators, instant messages anywhere in the galaxy. But I suppose every civilization develops differently." Kethvorin was feeling dizzy. "You have instant galactic communication?" "Of course. How else would we coordinate trade routes and cultural exchanges? Speaking of which, we've been talking to some of your member species. They seem very interested in joining our economic cooperation zone." "Our member species?" "Yes, about 12,000 of them have already sent ambassadors to Earth. They're fascinated by our technology and want to establish trade relationships. Very friendly people. Much more advanced than we expected from an empire using fusion engines." Grand Admiral Kethvorin realized with growing horror that his empire was falling apart. The species that the Dominion had spent thousands of years conquering were abandoning them for these impossibly advanced humans. And the humans didn't even seem to notice they were conquering anyone. They thought they were just making friends. "I need to speak with my government," Kethvorin said. Supreme Chancellor Morthek was not having a good week. The ruler of the Galactic Dominion had received 3 emergency reports about the humans, and each one was worse than the last. The first report said humans had better ships than the Dominion. The second report said humans had better technology than the Dominion. The third report said that half the Dominion's member species were trying to leave and join the humans instead. "This is impossible," Morthek said to his advisors. "How can one small species threaten our entire empire?" War Master Zul'Kavan was the Dominion's top military commander. He had spent 50 years conquering worlds for the Empire. Now he was reading reports that made no sense. "Sir," he said carefully, "I think we need to understand what we're dealing with. I recommend a full intelligence assessment." "Do it," Morthek ordered. "Find out everything about these humans." Science Prime Valandra was the Empire's chief researcher. She had been studying the data from the first contact mission for days. What she found kept her awake at night. "Chancellor," she said, "the humans aren't just advanced. They're impossibly advanced. Their technology is so far beyond ours that I'm not sure we can even understand it properly." Admiral Bae Sumi was reviewing reports in her office on Mars. As head of human fleet operations, she was responsible for coordinating Earth's space activities. Lately, that meant dealing with thousands of alien visitors who wanted to join human civilization. "Ma'am," said her assistant, "we have another delegation from the Dominion. They want to inspect our military capabilities." Bae sighed. "Which ship should we show them?" "They specifically asked to see our most powerful warship." "Oh dear, that might scare them. Let's use one of the patrol boats instead." The Dominion inspection team arrived in a small shuttle. War Master Zul'Kavan led the group, along with several military analysts and Science Prime Valandra. They were met by Admiral Bae on the docking bay of the patrol ship Busan. Zul'Kavan expected to see a typical human vessel, maybe slightly larger, than Dominion ships. Instead, he found himself inside a space that was bigger than most space stations. The patrol boat was 5 kilometers long and carried enough firepower to destroy a planet. "Welcome aboard," Admiral Bae said cheerfully. "Sorry about the mess, we're doing some routine maintenance. Would you like the full tour or just the highlights?" Zul'Kavan was staring at the walls. They seemed to be made of some impossible material that was harder than diamond but lighter than air. "This is your smallest warship?" he asked weakly. "Oh no," Bae laughed. "This is just a patrol boat. We use these for keeping space lanes clear and helping lost travelers. Our actual warships are much bigger." Science Prime Valandra was scanning everything with her instruments. The readings made no sense. "Admiral, what powers this vessel?" "Standard quantum fusion core. Nothing fancy. We get about 1,000 years of operation before needing maintenance." 1,000 years? Give or take. The new models are supposed to last even longer, but we haven't had them long enough to test that claim. They walked through corridors that stretched for kilometers. The ship's crew was only 50 people, but they had enough space for thousands. Everything was clean and bright and impossibly advanced. "How many ships like this do you have?" Zul'Kavan asked. "Patrol boats?" "About 50,000. They're stationed throughout human space to help with traffic control and emergency response." Valandra nearly dropped her scanner. 50,000 ships this powerful? "Well, they're not really powerful," Bae said modestly. "They're just patrol boats. Would you like to see the engine room?" The engine room contained a miniature star held in place by invisible forces. It burned cleanly and quietly, producing more energy than the entire Dominion fleet combined. "Is this safe?" Zul'Kavan whispered. "Completely safe," Bae assured him. "We've been using this technology for 200 years. Never had an accident." Dr. Lim Junseo was giving a different tour on Europa. As Director of Human Colonial Administration, he was showing Dominion officials how humans managed their space territories. His guests included several Dominion governors who wanted to understand human administrative methods. What they found was beyond their comprehension. This is our newest colony, Dr. Lim explained as they stood on an observation deck. Below them, a small planet was taking shape inside a pocket dimension. "You're building a planet?" asked Governor Tulliveros. "Well, technically, we're growing it. Planet building is pretty standard these days. The kids wanted somewhere to practice terraforming, so we made them a solar system to play with." "The children are terraforming planets?" "It's a school project. Very educational. They're learning about atmospheric management and ecosystem design. Last semester they created 3 different biospheres." Another governor, Kek Miran, was reading his instruments with growing panic. "Dr. Lim, this pocket dimension, how do you keep it stable?" "Oh, that's easy. We just use a dimensional anchor tied to local spacetime. Very reliable, though we did lose one solar system during the early experiments." "You lost a solar system?" "Just a small one. 7 planets, nothing too important. We learned a lot from that mistake." Captain Kang Yejin was leading her own tour for Dominion military officers. As head of the human exploration fleet, she had been mapping the galaxy for the past decade. "This is our navigation center," she explained to her confused guests. "We use it to coordinate exploration missions across the galaxy." War Commander Sek Thul was staring at the star charts on the walls. "Captain, these maps show every system in Dominion space. Of course, we mapped your territory about 5 years ago, while taking a scenic route to the Andromeda galaxy. Your charts were a bit outdated, so we updated them." "You've been to Andromeda?" "Several times. Beautiful galaxy, though the locals are still working on faster-than-light travel. We've been helping them with some basic engineering projects." Science Prime. Velandra was taking detailed notes of everything she saw. As the day went on, her reports became more and more desperate. "Chancellor," she transmitted back to the Dominion capital, "the humans have technology that shouldn't exist. They're manipulating space and time like it's clay. They're creating pocket universes for their children to play in. They're using controlled stars as power sources." Supreme Chancellor Morthek was reading these reports in his palace. Each message made him feel smaller and more helpless. "What about their military?" he asked War Master Zulkovin over the communication link. "Sir, I don't think they have a military. Not in any way we would understand. They have 50,000 patrol boats that could each destroy our entire fleet. They don't seem to think of them as weapons." "Then what do they use for actual weapons?" I don't think they have any, sir. They don't seem to need them." Dr. Lim was finishing his tour by showing the Dominion officials Earth's industrial facilities. They stood on an observation platform watching ships being constructed. "This is one of our smaller shipyards," Dr. Lim explained. "We can build about 1,000 ships per day here." 1,000 ships per day? Governor Tulliveros felt faint. "Yes, though most of them are just cargo haulers and passenger vessels. The colony ships take longer, maybe 6 hours each." 6 hours to build a colony ship? "Well, we don't really build them. We grow them. Much more efficient than traditional construction methods." Captain Kang was showing her guests the exploration fleet's latest discovery. "We found this yesterday," she said, pointing to a star chart. "A whole new galaxy cluster about 50 million light-years away. Very interesting stellar formations." "You discovered this yesterday?" Sek Thul asked. "How did you travel 50 million light-years in one day?" "Oh, we didn't travel there. We just sent a probe. It takes about 12 hours to reach that distance, with our standard exploration drones." Back on the Dominion flagship, Supreme Chancellor Morthek was having an emergency meeting with his advisors. The reports from the human territories had shattered everything they thought they knew about the galaxy. "How is this possible?" Morthek demanded. "How can one species be so advanced? They're treating the laws of physics like suggestions." "Sir," said cultural analyst Nimthara, "I've been studying their entertainment broadcasts. I don't think they realize how advanced they are." "What do you mean?" "They think all of this is normal. Building planets, creating pocket dimensions, traveling to other galaxies, they talk about it like we talk about farming or cooking. To them, it's just everyday life." War Master Zulkovin was studying tactical reports. "Chancellor, I've identified the real problem. The humans aren't trying to conquer us. That's good news." "No, sir, it's terrible news. They're so far beyond us that they don't see us as a threat. They don't see us as anything. We're like insects to them, but they're too polite to step on us. Science Prime Valandra nodded sadly. The humans have been offering to help us upgrade our technology. They think we're struggling with basic engineering problems. Are we? Morthek asked quietly. Compared to them? Sir, our most advanced technology is something they learned in elementary school. Morthek sat in silence for a long moment. His mighty empire, built over 20,000 years of conquest and expansion, was now revealed to be a collection of primitive worlds using obsolete technology, and the humans wanted to help them catch up to modern civilization. What do? He asked finally. Foreign Minister Song Haiwan was preparing for the most important diplomatic meeting in galactic history. The Dominion had requested formal negotiations to discuss their future relationship with humanity. She was reviewing her notes when her assistant brought her coffee and the latest reports from the intelligence services. Ma'am, her assistant said, we've received communication from 12,000 Dominion member species. They all want to establish independent relationships with Earth. Song sighed. That's going to make negotiations complicated. We don't want to break up their empire by accident. Should I tell them we're not interested? No, that would be rude. Just let them know we're happy to talk, but they should probably discuss it with their current government first. The negotiations were being held on Luna Base in a conference room that had been specially prepared for the occasion. The Dominion delegation arrived in their finest diplomatic shuttle, which looked like a toy next to the human ships in the docking bay. Negotiator Prime Zaltharon led the Dominion team. He was their most experienced diplomat, having successfully negotiated treaties with hundreds of species. But nothing in his career had prepared him for this. The human delegation was surprisingly small. Foreign Minister Song Haiwan, General Hong Dong-Wu from Military Affairs, and researcher Oh Mi-young, a specialist in alien psychology. Welcome to Luna Base, Song said with a warm smile as the aliens entered the conference room. Please make yourselves comfortable. Can we get you anything? Food, drinks, different atmospheric mixture? Zaltharon was surprised by the casual friendliness. Most diplomatic meetings began with formal ceremonies and ritual exchanges of gifts. We are fine, thank you, he said carefully. We come to discuss the future relationship between our peoples. Of course, Song said. We're very excited to meet you properly. Your empire sounds fascinating. 20,000 years of history must have given you incredible cultural diversity. Peacekeeping Chief Dormanus, who had come as part of the Dominion delegation, spoke up. Minister Song, we need to address the current situation. Many of our member species are attempting to leave the Dominion and join your confederation. Oh dear. Song looked genuinely concerned. We certainly didn't mean to cause any problems. We've just been responding to their requests for cultural and economic exchanges. General Hong leaned forward. If it helps, we can stop accepting new applications for membership. We don't want to disrupt your internal affairs. Trademaster Quintalar nearly choked. Stop accepting membership? You're turning down planets that want to join you? Well, yes, Hong said, looking confused. Why would we force anyone to join us? That doesn't seem very friendly. Researcher O was taking notes on her tablet. This is fascinating from a sociological perspective. Your empire is based on conquest and control, while our societies developed through voluntary cooperation, very different approaches to galactic civilization. Zaltharon felt a headache coming on. Dr. O, you speak of conquest as if it's unusual. How else does one build an interstellar empire? Oh, I don't know, O said thoughtfully. We just asked, nicely. Most species were happy to cooperate once they realized the benefits. Better technology, free education, unlimited energy, that sort of thing. Free energy? Of course. Energy scarcity is so unnecessary once you understand stellar engineering. We helped about 6,000 worlds set up their own StarTap systems last year. Song was reviewing her briefing materials. Speaking of which, we've had some requests from your member worlds for technical assistance. Several of their suns are showing signs of instability. You can fix dying stars? Dormanus asked weakly. It's not too difficult, Song said modestly. Usually just a matter of adjusting the fusion balance and clearing out accumulated heavy elements. Takes a few days if you know what you're doing. General Hong was looking at his own reports. Minister, we should probably mention the defense situation. Defense situation? Zaltharon asked nervously. Nothing serious, Hong assured him. It's just that some of your member species have been asking for protection from raiders and pirates. We've been providing escort services for their trade routes. How many ships are you using for escorts? About 10,000 patrol boats. Nothing major, just enough to keep the shipping lanes secure. Trademaster Quintalar fainted again. 10,000 human patrol boats was more firepower than the entire Dominion military. Researcher O was studying the Dominion delegates with professional interest. This is remarkable. Your stress responses suggest your entire civilization is suffering from chronic anxiety disorders. Anxiety disorders? Zaltharon asked. Well, yes. You've built your society around conflict and competition for limited resources. That must be incredibly stressful. No wonder your technology development has been so slow. Our technology is not slow. Oh, I'm sorry, O said quickly. I didn't mean to be rude. It's just that when you're constantly fighting for survival, you don't have much time for research and development. Song was trying to steer the conversation back to diplomacy. Perhaps we should discuss trade relationships. We understand you have a complex economy based on resource extraction and tribute. Yes, Quintalar said, having recovered from her fainting spell. The Dominion controls the flow of essential materials throughout our territory. That sounds exhausting, Song said sympathetically. All that bookkeeping and logistics, we use automated resource distribution networks, much simpler. Automated networks? Sure. The computers figure out who needs what and where to send it. No need for manual oversight. Frees up a lot of time. For more interesting activities. General Hong was reading a message on his tablet. Minister, I'm getting reports that several Dominion worlds are requesting humanitarian aid. Food shortages, energy crises, that sort of thing. Of course we'll help, Song said immediately. How bad is the situation? Dormanus looked embarrassed. Some of our outer worlds have been experiencing difficulties since their local governments declared independence and joined your economic zone. Oh no, Song looked horrified. We didn't realize that would cause supply problems. We should have set up support networks first. Support networks? Food distribution, energy provision, medical aid, basic infrastructure, standard humanitarian assistance. We'll have relief ships there within a few hours. Zaltharon was beginning to understand the scope of the problem. The humans weren't trying to conquer the Dominion. They were accidentally dismantling it by being helpful. Minister Song, he said carefully, perhaps we should discuss territorial boundaries. The Dominion has sovereign claim to our space. Absolutely, Song agreed. We completely respect your territorial integrity. We won't send any ships into Dominion space without permission. What about the ships that are already there? Song looked confused. Which ships? General Hong checked his reports. Oh, you mean the humanitarian mission? That's just emergency aid. We'll withdraw as soon as the crisis is resolved. How many ships? About 5,000. Plus support vessels. But they're only providing food, medicine, and basic infrastructure repair. Nothing political. Researcher O was making more notes. General, you should mention the cultural exchange programs. Right, Hong said. We've had about 3 million Dominion citizens apply for educational exchanges on Earth. They want to study our technology and social systems. 3 million? Zaltharon felt dizzy. We're building temporary housing for them, Song added helpfully. Should be ready next week. We want to make sure they're comfortable while they're learning. Peacekeeping Chief Dormanus was reading reports on his own device. His face was getting paler by the minute. Negotiator Zaltharon, he whispered. I'm receiving updates from across the Empire. 60% of our member worlds have formally requested to join the Human Confederation. 60%? The other 40% are still debating it. But they're all asking for immediate technical assistance. Song overheard this and looked concerned. That sounds like a lot of paperwork. Would you like us to help with the administrative transition? We have experience with large-scale governmental restructuring. You do? Oh yes, researcher O said. We helped the Andromeda Federation organize their democratic councils last year. Very complex situation, but we worked it out. You organized the Andromeda Federation? Well, they did most of the work. We just provided some logistical support and constitutional templates. Trade Master Quintaler was staring at her economic reports. Minister Song, I have to ask about your resource requirements. Supporting billions of new citizens must strain your economy. Song laughed. Not really. Our post-scarcity systems can handle pretty much any population level. The main challenge is just making sure everyone has something interesting to do. Post-scarcity? Unlimited. Food, energy, housing, education, healthcare, entertainment. The usual basics. Once you get fusion reactors and molecular assemblers working properly, scarcity becomes obsolete. Zaltharon realized that this negotiation was pointless. The humans had already won without trying. They had accidentally created a better civilization than the Dominion, and everyone wanted to join them. Minister Song, he said quietly, what do you want from us? Song looked surprised. Want from you? Nothing, really. We'd like to be friends, if that's possible. Maybe share some cultural exchanges, learn about your history. 6 months had passed since first contact, and President Shinji Hai was discovering that accidentally becoming the leader of 40,000 alien species was more complicated than running just one planet. She sat in her office in Seoul, looking at reports from across the galaxy. The Galactic Dominion had peacefully dissolved 3 months ago when the last of their member worlds voted to join the new Galactic Cooperative. Ma'am, said her assistant, you have another delegation requesting membership. The Spiral Arm Coalition wants to join our economic zone. How many species is that? About 6,000, ma'am. They heard about our free energy programs and want to modernize their civilizations. President Shin rubbed her temples. Accept their application, but make sure they understand we're not really in charge of anything. We're just coordinating resources. The doorbell chimed, and former Supreme Chancellor Morthek entered the office. The former ruler of the Dominion had become an unlikely friend of humanity, and his weekly visits to Earth had become a popular entertainment program. President Shin, Morthek said with a bow, I bring greetings from the Andromedian Embassy. They would like to establish formal relations with the cooperative. Another galaxy? Shin sighed. How did they even hear about us? Your exploration fleets have been very visible in their territory. The Andromedians are impressed by humanity's approach to interstellar diplomacy. What approach? We don't have an approach. We just try to be helpful. Morthek smiled. Exactly. That's what makes you so remarkable. Admiral Fleet Commander Ryu Sang-min was having his own challenges. As head of human space forces, he was supposed to be managing Earth's military. Instead, he found himself running the galaxy's largest humanitarian organization. Sir, said his aide, we have 17 new requests for infrastructure assistance. The Vortex Confederation needs help building orbital cities. The Crystal Worlds want us to repair their damaged sun, and the methane breathers are asking for help with atmospheric processors. Ryu looked at his star charts. Human ships were scattered across the galaxy, helping with everything from planetary engineering to teaching basic physics to civilizations that had forgotten how their own technology worked. How many ships do we have on humanitarian missions now? About 30,000, sir, plus support vessels and construction fleets. And actual military operations? None, sir. We haven't had a military conflict in over 200 years. Right. Sometimes I forget that's what these ships were originally designed for. Director of Development Kim Woo-jin was dealing with the economic challenges of galactic civilization. His job was to help former Dominion worlds transition from scarcity-based economies to post-scarcity systems. The biggest problem wasn't technical, it was psychological. Most species couldn't believe that unlimited resources were actually possible. Director Kim, said his assistant, the Crystalline Federation is concerned about the long-term costs of our assistance programs. They want to know what we expect in return. Kim laughed. Nothing. How many times do we have to explain this? We don't want anything from them. They don't believe that, sir. They think there must be a hidden agenda. What kind of hidden agenda could we possibly have? We already have more resources than we know what to do with. On the former Dominion capital world, Ambassador General Tulvos was hosting a meeting of species representatives. The old empire had been replaced by a loose confederation of worlds that coordinated through voluntary cooperation. The humans have provided us with technology that has eliminated poverty, hunger, and energy scarcity across 40,000 worlds, Tulvos announced to the assembly, and they refuse to accept any payment for this assistance. Why? Asked Representative Kulminar from the mining worlds. What do they gain from helping us? I asked them that question last week, Tulvos replied. President Shin said, and I quote, "Making friends is fun and fixing problems is interesting." She seemed genuinely confused about why I was asking. Captain Hackmorian, who had once commanded Dominion warships, now led a volunteer peacekeeping force made up of former military personnel from across the galaxy. Their job was to help resolve conflicts and maintain order in the new confederation. The humans have taught us something remarkable, he told his mixed crew of former enemies. Violence is not strength. True strength is the ability to solve problems without fighting. But Captain, asked his Zephyrian second officer, what if someone attacks us? Then we call for backup. Have you seen what human patrol boats can do? No one in their right mind would attack a cooperative world. Dr. Park Ji-woo had become something of a celebrity across the galaxy. His research into alien cultures had been turned into a popular entertainment program called Humans Are Weird, and we love them. Today we're visiting the crystalline worlds, Dr. Park said to his camera crew as they toured a planet made entirely of living crystal. The inhabitants communicate through harmonic vibrations and feed on solar radiation. They're absolutely fascinating. His alien co-host, former Supreme Chancellor Morthek, nodded enthusiastically. Dr. Park, could you explain to our viewers why humans find us so interesting? Well, Dr. Park said thoughtfully, every species has developed unique solutions to the challenges of existence. You crystal beings have mastered living architecture. The methane breathers have created art forms based on atmospheric chemistry. The quantum collective exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously. How could we not find that amazing? But humans are far more advanced than any of us. Technologically, maybe, but you've all developed things we never thought of. Cultural diversity is precious. That's why we want to preserve and learn from it. President Shin was back in her office, reading the latest reports from across the galaxy. The Galactic Cooperative now included over 45,000 species and was growing daily. Ma'am, her assistant said, you have a call from the Intergalactic Council. They want to discuss expanding cooperation to include the Magellanic Clouds. There's an Intergalactic Council? Apparently we started one last month when Captain Kang's exploration fleet made contact with civilizations in 3 nearby galaxies. Shin put her head in her hands. How did we accidentally become responsible for multiple galaxies? I think it's because we keep saying yes when people ask for help. Should we stop doing that? Probably not, ma'am. It would be rude. Admiral Ryu was giving a presentation to the Earth Assembly about the current state of galactic affairs. In summary, he said, we have achieved universal peace, eliminated poverty and hunger across 45,000 worlds, and established the largest voluntary confederation in known history, all by accident. Admiral, asked Assembly member Kim, do we have any actual threats to worry about? Not really. Our biggest challenge is processing membership applications fast enough. We're getting about 1,000 new worlds per week. What about military threats? Sir, our patrol boats are more powerful than anything else in the galaxy. Most conflicts end when we show up and offer to help fix whatever is causing the problem. Director, Kim was hosting another orientation session for newly joined species. These sessions had become necessary because many civilizations couldn't understand how the cooperative actually worked. The basic principle is simple, he explained to a room full of confused aliens. Everyone contributes what they can and everyone gets what they need. No money, no trade balances, no debt. A representative from the hierarchical states raised a tentacle. But who controls the distribution? Who makes the decisions? Nobody, really. The computers handle most of the logistics, and local communities make their own choices about what they want. But someone must be in charge. Well, President Shin coordinates things when necessary, but she keeps trying to give the job to someone else. Former Supreme Chancellor Morthek was finishing his latest book titled Casual Omnipotence: How Humans Accidentally Fix the Galaxy. It had become a bestseller across 45,000 worlds. The remarkable thing about humans, he wrote, is not their technology or their power. It's their genuine inability to understand why anyone would want to hurt other people. They approach every problem as if it can be solved through cooperation and kindness. And somehow this actually works. Captain Hakamorian was addressing a conference of former military leaders who had joined the cooperative's peacekeeping forces. We spent thousands of years fighting over resources that the humans can create from empty space, he told the assembly. We conquered worlds to gain power that the humans give away for free. We built empires to achieve security that the humans maintain through friendship. What do we do now? Asked a former Dominion general. We learn, Hakamorian said simply. We help. We build something better than what we had before. Dr. Park was concluding his latest research paper on comparative galactic civilizations. The most significant discovery of this research, he wrote, is that every species in the galaxy has been struggling with the same basic problems: resource scarcity, territorial conflicts, and social inequality. Humans solved these problems centuries ago, not through conquest or superior intelligence, but by choosing cooperation over competition. The real miracle is not that humans developed better technology. The real miracle is that when presented with the choice between helping others and helping themselves, humans consistently choose both.